This podcast is brought to you by Vaseline for Men Fast Absorbing Lotion. You take care of your body, well, you can't forget about your skin. I use Vaseline for Men Fast Absorbing Lotion for strong, healthy skin. Let's go. Welcome, friends. This is the first episode of the Garofola Classic Podcast. Let's see how this works out here. I'm pretty much just rolling on a whim, so give it a try, though. So I don't have much to talk about before the season starts, but obviously the draft was a disaster. Easily the worst of all time. And 2 weeks after the fact, I still don't understand how it turned out as bad as it did. The spreadsheet, I looked online a lot before deciding on that. And I thought you couldn't beat it, and all the comments on the website that offered it, all positive, and I didn't see why it would go wrong. And for everyone acting like you knew it was gonna be shit, pipe down, would ya? Hindsight's 20/20. You didn't know shit. 'Cause what could you say about it? It has no timer. Well, this was supposed to be a live draft. And for all those who have taken part in live drafts before, there's not usually a timer. And it's not usually a problem. Now, I can't help it that only 8 out of 14 teams showed up. That was quite disappointing. I know some people absolutely couldn't make it, and some just chose not to come. And I'm not going to excoriate those who just chose not to come either, because as much as I wanted people to show up, I didn't think it would be vital to the process. However, it hurt things. But back to a timer. I don't know if people were like trying to study on the fly, or if they just don't understand the concept of pick a few fucking guys before it gets to your turn, and whoever falls to you, you pick them. Now, I understand not every pick is going to be instant, but there really isn't any reason why a pick should take longer than 30 seconds or a minute. Shout out to our 5-star members, Nick Trotter and Alex. You guys are great, but I have to admit, it was insane the time you were taking at the end of the order. It was insane. And going back to so many people not being there, that also made it difficult. With just making sure someone knew it was their turn. It's not fun to have to text people every time they're up and shit like that. Some of you were good, some not so much. You know, what can you do, though? Another thing you could gripe about with the spreadsheet is it seemed that it didn't work as well when there were, all the teams online. It seemed to update a little slower. And if everyone was there, we could have did like those of us that were there did. And you basically just say your pick, and then we had basically most of the time one person input it into the spreadsheet, and that helped a lot. Because I think a lot of the times there were multiple people trying to input something into the same cell, and that fucked things up. I know some guys weren't updating, but like that, the spreadsheet works. That was human error. So, I mean, that's on us. I wish I would have declared after like the first round or so that people I should have changed it to view only for everyone, and then just one of us at the draft should input the shit and just have people follow along and text me the picks. But that didn't happen, unfortunately. And another thing I wish I would have did, well, we all should have noticed it. None of us thought of this. One of the best features of the spreadsheet over like the ESPN draft lobby is that I was hoping that you could see everyone's team as you go, like an actual draft board, and we had it up on the big screen. And our dumb asses, I mean, we tried to do it, but we tried to do it in Google Sheets and using a zoom feature, which for some reason they don't have. However, none of our monkey asses thought to just use our fucking browser and zoom out, which would have made it 100 times easier. That would have been nice. But, didn't happen. So, let me think what else we can get to. Oh, and just, again, it's not the spreadsheet's fault that, like, shit didn't update at times, or the running backs. I mean, it was a shame that the running back situation we had going, where the page got messed up. It's a shame that happened, and yes, it did happen too easily, but this also would have been, it wouldn't have been a problem if we would have everyone there and just one person inputted stuff. Because I had Butler's work draft. He had to work, so I drafted for him last week. And they have a live draft. I had to draft on the telephone, but they have a live draft. 15 rounds, and they took a total of like 2.5 hours. No timer, no nothing. They say their pick, someone fucking puts it on the board, and that's it. And I followed along with the same spreadsheet we used, blank, and followed along the whole time. And there were no guys that didn't update. It was as simple as it was when I originally tested it. You click the arrow or type in a piece of their name and click on it, and it goes in, everything updates. So, it all goes back to just, once again, I don't understand how it turned out exactly like it did. Now, even beyond just the actual draft part, for next year, I do want to, I mean, we tried this year, tried to try something new and get something like a rental or something for a day or two. But I waited too long. Because that, the Ligonier rental with that big rec room, that would have been the tits. We could have had boys Olympics, did all kinds of amazing shit. But it was too tame. I know a few of us tried our best to get rowdy. And Troutman mistook for the Butler's steps for a sleep number. A few of us tried to get it in, but it was just too. The vibes weren't as wild as I would have hoped for. In fact, I think it's been dying down a little bit each year since the second annual Garofola Classic, when Tim started the tradition of bringing fireball and pretending to shoot fireballs at people throughout the night. And Waylon doing cocaine on Eric's counter, and this and that and this and that. That was the best one. But for next year, we gotta. I don't know yet. There's a lot of options, but we're gonna try something new. And we're also going to create some kind of incentive, strong incentive for you to be there. I mean, we gave 3 months in advance the date and everything. Aside from a couple people, I think everyone should have been there. But I don't know what the incentive is yet, but possibilities, or maybe if you're not there, you gotta have a representative there for you. And then if you guys want to communicate, fine, but someone gotta be there, or maybe even just like a financial penalty for causing everyone a little bit extra pain. But we'll see. And I'm kind of jumping back and forth because I'm just going off the top of my head here. But another thing, a lot of people were saying don't fix what wasn't broken, referring to ESPN's standard draft lobby. Now, I think these people are quite forgetful of all the problems that we've had throughout the years with ESPN's standard draft lobby. Whether it's the start time, or if something gets messed up, we have to wait an hour and 15 minutes because ESPN. Or if someone internet goes out, picks up the muscle hamster, wanted AJ Green, then we have to send out a group text. Oh, well, if you want the muscle hamster, now you got to pick AJ Green. And that leaves the possibility that someone misses that, picks another player, and it just compounds into a bigger and bigger problem. And that happens every year, actually. Some years less than others, but it happens just about every year. And in recent years, we've also had internet troubles with the regular ESPN draft. I know a few people had to leave last year, and some people even there had to go in a secret room and hardwire connection, and hell. I mean, when we invite everyone to a common place for the draft party, I mean, things can get pretty shitty if the internet connection goes down. And on ESPN, you can't go back and you can't pause the draft and retract like the last pick, which is just retarded. But it's ESPN, so what else would we expect? And like for this year, despite Butler having supposedly high-speed internet, we had tons of internet troubles, and that was just to access fucking a spreadsheet. Now there's even more when you're trying to access the draft lobby. Things get even more fucky. So who knows how that would have ended up. But I don't know. And another thing for next year, we have 2 keepers now with a penalty. Meaning, of course, that if you drafted someone in the 8th round, it counts as your 7th round pick. Well, ESPN's draft lobbies don't support that style of keepers. They only do the gay amateur way, where you keep X amount of players and they just count as your first, X amount of rounds, which is retarded also. So, we're probably not going to do that next year. Do that as in use the ESPN draft lobby. But don't worry, I know better than... We're not doing the spreadsheet thing either. As of now, it's looking like clicky draft is probably the best. Clicky... excuse me. Clicky... Oh, jeez. Let me have a drink of my coffee real quick. Clicky draft. Christ. Clicky draft is a software that I considered for this year and ended up passing on just because it was $20 for the premium. Which is like nothing, so that probably would have saved us a butt-fuck ton of trouble. But because it's pretty much everyone's recommendation if you're asking for alternate methods to draft. But like I said, passed on it. But it has basically everything you could ever dream of. And it's 4 drafts, not like just a spreadsheet. So of course you avoid all that funny stuff happening with player not updating or the running back page getting temporarily deleted. And you could draft on your phone, your computer. You could see the whole draft board. You got auto picks. You can even put a timer, which like I said, we don't need, but after this year, probably going to need some kind of timer. And it also supports the style of keepers that we use. But, I mean, this is a long ways away, so nothing to worry about right now. But I will test it and everything prior to make sure it's legit. But by all accounts, it is supposed to be legit. Now, I have kind of a long shot proposal. And maybe I'll type something up in the vote thread. And if we get an overwhelming majority, say for example maybe like 10-4 vote, we could make this change or put this change into effect. What is this change you speak of, Anthony? Well, every year I usually do 1 or 2 auctions. This year, unfortunately, I didn't get in any. But the other day I was over at my buddy's house, and he was drafting his longtime friends league. And they do an auction, and it just reminded me of all the greatness we're missing out on. Especially considering we have 14 teams, we really should be doing an auction. With the current setup, you can't even build your team the way you want to, just because with 14 teams, you pretty much got to take it as it comes to you. Auctions, you go after players you like and ignore players you don't. I think it's more fun, more strategic, but not too complex where someone can't, like, it's very simple. And with this method, we would be able to use ESPN's draft software, because you actually can, if something happens, you could pause it and go back a pick, do shit like that. And like a complete live auction would be a pain in the keister. But it's just the superior way to draft. And we don't really have any novices in the league where someone wouldn't be able to wrap their heads around it. And every rankings page, no matter what site you use or anything, everyone has like a basic, they all got dollar amounts next to them too nowadays. Because it's the way fantasy's going, especially for an experienced league like us. I think if you haven't done one before, you should, and I think after one, even if it's just a mock, I think you'll know what I'm saying and probably be on board. They are awesome. So maybe I'll write something up. Okay, the problem with this would be, well, we just implemented keepers. And with the 1 round penalty, that would fuck that up. This is true. The only way I thought of that would kind of work would be to use a ranking list. Like, I would suggest beer sheets for those. I don't know who's familiar with those or not, but it's known to be a pretty solid set of rankings, and you could customize them based on your exact roles of your league, number of teams included and stuff. So we could set our exact roles, number of teams, and with the most recent one, or the one closest to our draft date. Closest but not over. So, and then make it, instead of like a 1 round penalty, like a $10 penalty, and just go by their proposed dollar amounts. Not saying it's perfect, it won't translate perfectly, but it's a way that we could transition over that's reasonable. Something to think about. And like I said, maybe I'll write a little thing up, especially as I was stumbling over my words for a minute there. And I'll see what you guys think. Now, what else have we to talk about? I'll tell you one thing. I'm excited as the dickens for the season. You guys almost dethroned me at the Best Draft Award. I'll even admit that I'm a tad lower on my team now than I was when we drafted. Pretty much just because Kevin White, I came into the season extremely high on him. Definitely reached for him in the draft. And he was pretty underwhelming in preseason. Nevertheless, I still like my squad, but there were definitely a few others that challenged me for the top spot. I'm not gonna go through them all, but old Kyle and Dole starting lineup doesn't really have any holes except for the tight end. Got their big back handcuffed. They got a good squad, and there's a couple others too. Like, I know defending champs had some great value picks. Like I said, I'm not going to go through all the teams. But it was close. Also, a couple of shitty teams, but I'm not going to get into that. Oh, Anth, come on, power rankings. Nah. Take it easy, would ya? No damn power rankings. Sensitive ass motherfuckers. But, yeah, it should be a great season. And also, regardless of how the draft ended up, you can get a leg up or a leg back in the draft. But in reality, unless you're like a complete idiot who's never watched football before and you just draft the Texans in the second round and Mike Vick in the first or something. Cue a joke for the year I took Mike Vick in the first. But if you just do crazy shit, and it's all going to depend on free agency and fortune, so free agency's many, many times more important than the draft, so don't get down on yourself if you drafted a bunch of scrubs. But you better watch that wire. You know I will be. So I think that's about all I got for now. And in the future, I'll try to call a guest on Skype. Maybe we can run down over the latest happenings in the football/fantasy world. Talk about how our league is going. Shit like that. But that's about it. Peace out, friends.